Hello snowboarders of the internet. I'm your host Avran LeFeber, and in this video we're going to break down the 32 TM2 Double Boa. That's right, one of the higher end boots from 32. So let's get right into it. This video was made in part by Tactics.com, Tactics board shop up in the Pacific Northwest with 4 locations between Bend, Portland, and Seattle, and a 5th location in Sapporo, Japan. So if you're shopping online for boots, which I strongly don't recommend, you can at least do it at Tactics.com because they want you to buy your boots from them. With the TM2 Double Boa, you get some beefed up features compared to other 32 boots, which is nice. On the shell, you have a 2-piece stitching over the toe, so you've got this leather material with a double stitch seam, and then you got this harder rubber in there. If you're resting your edge on this boot, this is gonna fray this over time. This is just something to be aware of. And also, down here with this little dip, when you tighten this down, you may feel a slight pinch point in there if you crease the boot when you're cranking the toe strap. Now the cool thing is you do get this TPU in the back of the back spine. This just gives it more rigidity, more rebound to it. So when you're really driving into this boot, it actually holds its shape better, it holds its durability. You also have a deep articulation, meaning that this helps with the forward flex of this boot. So when you drive into this, this helps just allow it to free flex in there. Over time, obviously, this is gonna crease. You are gonna just have it break down. The TM2 is a little bit of a stiffer boot from 32. Just remember though, if you're like 6 feet tall, in a size 9 and 135 pounds, you're gonna leverage it different than a guy that's a size 9, 250 pounds and is 5'6". That's just a given in there. Boot flex ratings, imaginary number because everyone's gonna be a little bit different. Need to stress that point to you. But with that articulation and how this boot is, you know, you're gonna get a little bit give. Now, one thing I do want you to know about 32s is that they tend to break in faster than other boots. So when you try it on, that's the stiffest that boot's gonna be. It's only gonna progressively get softer. You do get 32's molded tongue, so it's got a pre-shape to it. And one thing that I want you to know about this is this isn't the most rigid tongue out there compared to other boots in this category, so this will break in as you create those flex points in it. It's not a bad thing, just be aware of it. On the back of the boot here, if you pull on this right here, you're gonna notice you've got this elastic there. So for you guys with bigger calves, this is actually going to fit you a little bit better. Plus the foam in the liner is a lot more malleable and soft at the top, so it's really just gonna cradle around that calf. As this is the Double Boa version of the TM2, you've got the side knob and the front knob. Side knob controls the lower zone. You're gonna notice that you don't have as many crisscrosses, so when you're tightening this down from the side to get that lower tightened or even that upper, it's not gonna keep that tension as much as when they cross or if there's an eyelet in there, just something to be aware of. The internal harness is sewn into the shell of this boot and it does come up to above the ankle. It's not as high up as other boots, so the top of the liner is gonna be a little more free floating in there. You have a very long drawstring on this, so you can really crank this down. It does have that nice little slide tab on there. Remember, the best boot is the one that fits your foot and fits your needs. With the sole of this boot, they're actually using that Michelin rubber. You've seen Ride snowboards use this, so it's cool to see it go to 32. This actually provides more dampening underfoot. It gives a better tread. It doesn't slip as much on ice. And this has a nice tread pattern. This should grip unless you're really foot shuffling and wearing it down. You do have a little bit of foam in there that's gonna help dampen. This is actually a really solid tread on this. I really do like what they're doing with this. The big thing to note is this is not as low profile as other boots. It's a little bit chonkier, so when you're dealing with binding size, that's something else to consider. We're about halfway through this video. Why haven't you given it a thumbs up? And while you're there, why don't you subscribe? Click the bell, get those notifications. That way you're not missing any of the programming we've got coming out for you. The TM2 has the performance fit liner. So you get 2 different densities of foam in this liner. So it's going to be a little more malleable up around the top. This, as I've mentioned, helps with the calf. And then it's a little more dense down around the toe and everything. This is fully heat moldable. What you're going to notice though is you've got this big seam here on the side. So some of you may actually feel that. Then you have the heel hold system. So it does have this little neoprene sleeve here. It's got some elastic to it so you can shove foam in there, or you could put it on the outside right here where the stitching is if you're having heel hold issues. The other cool thing is you've got this fabric right here on the tongue, and so when you tighten that cinch, it sits on top of it. It does not dig into the liner. So you do get that double wrap power strap right there, so you can open it up. See that you got one on the other side. So basically this really wraps that tongue down and locks it in. Inside the liner, you do have internal J-bars. The foam on these is a lot softer than other brands that I've seen, so this will pack out. This is more of a U shape to the heel than a V shape. So if you're looking at your foot and it looks more like a U, then you're like, okay, it's wider, it tends to be this. If it's more narrow, it tends to be more of a V in there as well. It is a fully intuition liner, so you can heat mold this as well. Inside the liner, you get the Performance Fit footbed. This actually has posting on it. This is a rarity with a lot of companies in this price point. So this was really cool to see. This actually just creates a better heel pocket. The way that this is shaped, it comes in a little bit more on the instep. So while I can push this down with my finger, it's better than other companies' stock insoles in the same category. Do I think you need to replace this with an aftermarket? If you ride more than 20 days a year, I would definitely consider it. If you're under 20 days a year, you're probably going to be fine with it. Measuring the liner at the widest point, I set it to the 1 inch mark on the tape measure, and it comes out to about 5 1/4, so that's 4 1/4, so this is a little bit wider. 32s are known to being wider. So those of you with a wider forefoot, this is a boot brand to consider. This is a size 10 boot, so we'll give you some measurements. At the back, on the spine, at the top, it's about 10 1/5. On the tongue, we're just shy of 11. On the side, obviously, that's going to be just below 10 on there. That's without the liner. So if we measure this with the liner in there, it comes up to about 11 1/5 at the back. On the front, it's about 10 3/4, and obviously it's going to have a little dip in the side. 32 is definitely more freestyle focused. I don't care what anyone says. People can argue with me all they want. Their stiffest boot still isn't even that stiff. And with this being one of their higher end boots, a little stiffer, it's still middle of the road. This is kind of just like, I'm gonna go cruise the resort. I want double BOA. I've got a wider foot, a wider heel in there. I want an intuition liner. And you don't really care that this is gonna be a little bit bulkier than other boots. So, you know, you're gonna be riding that wide board and whatnot. Is it a bad boot? No. Is it a great boot? No. It's a snowboard boot. And I want to go along with that and say the best boot is the one that fits your foot and fits your needs. So definitely try them on, see what works for you. At the end of the day, I think if you're a really aggressive rider, you're going to spend a lot of time in these boots. Just understand that they're going to get soft relatively fast. Like what we're doing over here? Want to support us further? Swing on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP and become a member. Sure, I could tell you more here, but I got a video over there that explains it so much better. All right, so we went through all the features on the TM2 Double BOA. Hopefully this boot breakdown has got you a little more dialed in on what you need to look for in this boot. Whether it's the boot for you or not, I don't know. And if it's not, why don't you go watch one of our other boot breakdowns?